And good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We got Mike Patt, Alden K, and Ricky K here tonight, and we're going to be talking all of the hottest baseball news for you guys. We're going to start off with actually some of the hottest topics. The number one, of course, being the MLB and the ESPN agreeing to part ways from their contract. We're going to talk about what that means for both sides. If it's good for one, bad for the other, bad for both, good for both. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Yankees finally changing a long-standing team rule to have no beards. They will allow beards now, which obviously, as you can see, is greatly appreciated among the three of us. But we're going to talk about that change. And then, of course, Justin Verlander, interesting comments. Baseball should make the pitchers go 5 innings. We're going to talk about some thoughts. And then, of course, we got to check in with spring training is in full swing. Baseballs are flying out of ballparks. And we are going to talk about who's hot, who's looking good, and what do we look for? What do we care about in spring training? Does it matter? Do we care about some things? What do we look for, and what do we want to see from our favorite teams? And what do obviously we want to see our not favorite teams not do so hot, but what do we see from our favorite teams? And of course, in the second part of our show, we're going to introduce our divisional highlight series leading up to the season. We are going to talk about one division each week. I think we'll have to cram 2 into the last week, but that's okay. And tonight we are highlighting the National League West. Is it the Dodgers to lose? Probably. But who else is going to challenge? Are the Diamondbacks the challenger? The Padres? Will the Giants challenge? Probably not the Rockies, but we're going to talk about them anyways. And then we have to check in with our college teams because college baseball and college softball are both in full swing. We're going to take a look at who had a great week, who's looking really good, who's maybe struggling, who's maybe not doing as well as we would have thought. We've got a jam-packed show, lots of baseball to talk about, and you are here at the right spot tonight on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Jerky that is truly out of this world. Also, Vital Apparel. Use code IESR to get 15% off of your purchase today. Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom wax seals, great little touch for your special occasion. And our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com and use promo code IESR there as well to get 10% off. Once again, I'm Mike Patt. We've got Alden K and Ricky K here tonight to talk some baseball. Do be sure to follow us at the below X hashtags at BP Bulletin _ISR. That's the show link. The AZTRL for Alden. At Rickinator555 for Ricky, and at Let's Wine _ISR for Mike. And we also have our supporters club up now for just $5 a month. If you subscribe, we will do a custom-made show for you. We'll talk about your favorite baseball team at length. We'll do shout-outs, So go to Spreaker.com/podcast/The Bullpen Bulletin to support us today. Every little bit helps. And we do appreciate all of your support, all of you listeners out there. You guys are what keeps us going. So, guys, we've got some pretty hot and heavy baseball topics to get to tonight, and let's jump into probably the biggest news, not only for the week, but probably for the year so far, I would say, for baseball at least. The MLB and ESPN have agreed to part ways. They are ending their media deal for the upcoming season as the MLB explores new marketing opportunities. So, Ricky, let's kick it off with you. What do you think this means for both sides, ESPN and the MLB? Does this benefit anybody? Is anybody getting something out of this?
I think both sides are at fault here, but more so Major League Baseball, because I feel like the sport has become so regional that you finally had a national market. And yes, ESPN is not the perfect partner. Why? Because ESPN spends First Take and Get Up, and they may talk baseball for 10 minutes out of 2 hours, which doesn't make any sense. Baseball is still part of the national realm of conversation, even though it's not the Dallas Cowboys, LeBron and Luca, or whatever topics they want to keep talking about forever. The fact of the matter is, though, you look at the product, and right now, when you look at Sunday Night Baseball is far from, at least for you and I, Mike, John Miller and Joe Morgan. That's what we remember Sunday Night Baseball as. Now it's, we got to get an interview in the 3rd inning, an interview in the 5th inning, an interview in the 4th inning. Somebody does a demonstration in the 7th inning or something like that. But at the same time, what does baseball expect? Are they going to go to Netflix? Are they going to go to, they got the games on Roku right now on Sundays. Are they going to go to Amazon Prime? Because the Yankees here have Amazon Prime Wednesdays where they just air games on Prime. And I'm still pretty old school, but I don't, remember they got the national rights coming up in 2028. So this year will be the last year of ESPN. Then they'll have to figure out who's the partner. Is it NBC? Is it Peacock? Is it something like that? I don't know what Rob Manfred is thinking here. I feel like they could have at least worked something out, but it begs the question, what streamer or what provider is going to give baseball the exclusive rights, or is it just Fox?
Yeah, great points there, Ricky. Great, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, with all of the changes to like streaming and things like that, I mean, who knows where the MLB goes from here? I mean, ESPN. I mean, you kind of made a good point. They were only talking about baseball for a little bit at a time, so that'll just give them more time to talk about LeBron James and Patrick Mahomes, probably. Uh, But in any case, Alden, what are your thoughts here? What do you think the MLB is going to do here with this change?
Yeah, so Ricky pointed out a whole lot, and obviously, I also think both sides are not benefiting from this. Um, and literally a month before the season starts too, so for it to happen this way, right before the season starts, is kind of a bad way to kick things off. But obviously, with the MLB providing a bunch of viewership and just exclusive rights for ESPN to cover things like the Home Run Derby, Sunday Night Baseball. Obviously, when ESPN demanded to reduce rights fees, the MLB did not like it, which, as far as what led to the termination of their deal. So I think that the MLB, more so in some ways, doesn't have that much advantage over this because they drew their largest live attendance uh, figures in 7 years in this past season. And a lot of that came from ESPN. I think it's around like 25 to 30 Sunday night games. And of course, the Home Run Derby, which, we all know around the All-Star time, MLB is probably the closest one that goes to the best. So a lot of people, especially baseball fans like us, tune in to watch that. So with this happening, it's just, and of course, with ESPN and MLB, being partnered up since I believe the 90s, just it doesn't look good on the business part. And like Ricky said, no clue what Rob Manfred thought about this, but both sides do not benefit from it, and it's definitely gonna drop a lot of stirred questions here in the future. So, but yeah, to summarize it all up, it does not look good for either side.
I'll agree with you there, Alden. 35 years running, by the way. To your point, you were talking about together for a long time, 35 years. It's almost like, when you've got a married couple that's been together for so long, they get bored with each other. And instead of trying to find a way to fix the problem, they just get a divorce or something. Like it's, two sides that have been partnered together for so long. And it's strange, and I think you make a great point also, Alden, about the timing of this coming out 1 month before the season starts. Really strange there as well. I agree with all the points you guys made. Just a bad look for both sides. I mean, ESPN's reputation, especially, I feel like in the last few years, it's kind of it's shifting like almost towards like reality TV at this point. It's just all talking heads and talk shows, and you struggle to find like actual sports coverage some days, which is kind of disappointing. So you've got their reputation going down. Baseball's obviously gained a nickname as the dying sport for losing popularity, but I mean a lot of sports are losing popularity right now. The NBA is dealing with the same thing, so I don't know if it's something that's unique to them, but yeah, very very strange timing, and I agree, a poor look for both sides. Before we move on, a couple of people jumping in the chat room. Marcus Los Great, the host of our Gloves Off boxing podcast, jumping in. Good evening to you, sir. Brian, the host of our new Boston show, I believe, jumping in. Good evening, Brian. And then Taryn Rodriguez, host of the SoCal Supreme sports show. He'll be very interested to what we have to say coming up here later on in the show, talking about the National League West. I'm sure he'll be very curious to hear our opinions, as I believe 2 teams fall into his jurisdiction in Southern California. All right. So we talked about the MLB, kind of the big news. Now, a little bit lighter news, but still an interesting development. The Yankees finally moving on from their longtime rule. For those of you who did not know, the New York Yankees have a long-standing rule: no facial hair, which obviously you can tell the three of us would not necessarily agree with. Um, but finally this year, they have decided, and again, this was all within the last week, kind of a sudden, almost you could maybe call it random. Maybe there were hints that it was happening, not sure. But Ricky, given that New York is your jurisdiction, we're going to start with you. Was this something that was anticipated? And what do you think of this change?
This was shocking. When Hal Steinbrenner came out with this statement on Friday that he talked to several Yankees past and present about it and thought that it was going to be this new rule, or the rule was going to be basically done with, it was surprising because that's the Yankees. That's George Steinbrenner. There's the famous story of Lou Piniella wanted a beard, and George Steinbrenner told him, you could walk across that pond in spring training, you could grow a beard. So that's been a whole thing with the Yankees. And I think there was one player in particular that I think is to credit or blame, depending on what side you are, and that's Devin Williams. Devin Williams showed up to spring training with a beard, ended up getting rid of it, a little bit of it, but also said he felt naked without the beard at the end of the day. So I think his opinion stuck. Aaron Judge commented on today. He doesn't think he'll wear a beard, or he still looks the Yankees in the past. But Aaron Boone said it best. If it's costing you players, it has to go. And I think eventually it was going to cost them players, but it hasn't before. Like Brian Wilson in the past, maybe they didn't want hit. I'm not saying get a Brian Wilson beard or a Charlie Blackmon beard, but if Garrett Cole wants to grow his Astro beard back, which was really cool, by the way, let him grow a beard. If CeCe wanted to grow something, CeCe should have been allowed to grow something. I think it was going to come down to, you're the Yankees, you haven't won in a long time. You have to think about changing how you do things to get the player. It's about the player now, not so much the organization. And it's a good way to at least try to make it one less obstacle to signing a premier free agent, which is what they try to do.
Yeah, I cannot picture Aaron Judge with a beard personally. That looks a little weird in my books, but if he wants to try it, go for it. Alden, what are your thoughts here? What do you think about this change?
Yeah, so when the Yankees had this rule, I always saw the rule as something like, okay, if you're not on the Yankees, who cares? But if you're on the Yankees, it's a problem in some way. And today's sports days, I should say, it's not just baseball. It's pretty much every other sport. Today's sports, it's not so much about, okay, just shut up and go out there and play ball. It's about, the players' happiness and their satisfaction as to what really applies when they're on the team. And Devin Williams, who they literally just traded for too, was not a fan of it, clearly. So, and I remember, I think when I was reading it, Steinbrenner said that he thought that the uh the rule was pretty much outdated to a point to where, okay, it's not really, needed anymore, which to, me personally, I'm a history guy, so it's like, okay, I always thought it was cool, you respect history like that. So I understand why there's some Yankee fans that don't like it, but at the same time, if you're gonna go back to the World Series, especially a New York team, a team that's used to winning, you the players have to be in the right mental state. And for the guys that wanted a beard and it was affecting them, but yeah, sure, if the players want to grow a beard, let them. I mean, it's not like it's illegal or anything like that. You're playing a sport. So go ahead. If you want to get rid of the rule, go ahead, man. It's Steinbrenner's team after all, so let him do what he wants.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, the Yankees are arguably the most historic franchise in baseball, if not one of the most historic in all of sports. There are lots of things that they have that are unique to them. The pinstripe uniforms everybody associates with the Yankees, the logo, the NY, everybody can recognize that a mile away. The no beard rule, yeah, it was another thing that made them kind of unique, kind of made them stand out amongst their other baseball compadres. But at the end of the day, for a sport that often gets accused of being stuck in the past and being considered too old school, maybe this was one of those old school rules that if it had to go, probably not the worst thing here to move on from this particular rule. But like I said, still can't picture Aaron Judge with a beard. Can't really picture Giancarlo Stanton with a beard. I don't know if he had one back in his Miami days. I don't think so. But yeah, I agree with Alden. They want to grow a beard, let them. I mean, and you guys, I think both of you guys made the same point that you can't let a rule like that cost you players and cause your players to be upset. That's just a stupid reason for you to be having personnel problems and clubhouse drama. It's just not worth it at the end of the day. And the third bit of baseball news coming from Justin Verlander, long time. I think we could all probably agree Hall of Fame pitcher Justin Verlander making a comment kind of about, how pitchers are treated in this day and age, how you see regularly any pitchers pitching fewer innings, going fewer pitches in a game. Verlander coming out this week and saying, look, I think the MLB should make a rule saying that, pitchers should pitch 5 innings or 100 pitches. I think he said something like he thinks it's incredible that you rarely see a guy go 200 innings, let alone like 250 that people like used to go. So Alden, we're gonna kick this one off with you. What do you think about Verlander's comments here? Is he right?
I'll say yes and no. He's right, but
Hmm.
he's also wrong because, I and obviously I'm not old enough to, remember that much the days where the pitchers, okay, yeah, you can go over 100 pitches, you can go 7, 8 innings, this and that. Today's MLB is different, and teams have a different game plan nowadays, uh, where the managers, if they happen to, and when it comes to pitchers, you're not going to have a good day every single game. So if you're just going to throw a pitcher out there for at least 5 innings, and last season we saw it a lot where if pitchers had a terrible first 2 innings, maybe three, they'll get pulled out because they're having a bad day. That's how it is in sports sometimes. So to that sense, I'd say he is wrong because if a pitcher happens to be ice cold one night and the batting lineup that they're pitching against happens to be hot, that pitcher is going to have a very long day. And the managers obviously are going to do what they think is best for the team. And if they're having a bad night, they're going to pull them out. That's how it is. But from a player's perspective, I think that it would be nice because yes, we don't really see pitchers go over 100 pitches anymore, even when they're having a good game. I mean, there were times I saw last year where pitchers would get taken out, even if they're like pitching a no hitter or something like that. It's like, what? So, in that sense, yeah, sure. I understand if a pitcher is playing lights out and if they are playing to a sense where they deserve the win, then yeah, keep on playing them. Doesn't, over 100 pitches, if they're playing good, they're playing good, right? So, uh, I could see it in both ways. I like Verlander's. I like the fact that he's, getting it out there because it is a good idea in some ways, but in today's MLB, I just don't think that it would really happen anymore.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And, Ricky, you and I probably remember if we were to go back, say, to the mid 2000s, for example, looking at pitcher stat lines and going, oh, all right, so and so threw 112 pitches tonight. Okay, that's, kind of standard. But now I feel like I'm looking like I'm watching like an Orioles pitcher and he finishes the fifth at 87 pitches. And I'm like, oh no, do they throw him out there for the sixth? So, Ricky, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about what Verlander said?
6 innings and 3 runs is a quality start. I don't feel like we even get that really anymore. And I'm in agreement with Justin Verlander. I think remember, why did we get rid of the 40-man roster? Because teams are having 15 pitchers in the bullpen in September. They're calling up these AAA guys that can throw 98, 99, but have no idea where the heck it's going in the zone. I've covered minor league baseball in the past, and I used to see, and that was good for the minors because guys are not, you have to go a little bit at a time. But if you're going, like if you're now not trained eventually to be in the big leagues, because I used to cover the lower levels where like you're developing, I get that. You get to AA, AAA, you should be developed into a starting pitcher that can go 5, 6, that can go at least 5 innings and get you through the game. Like I used to love going to games that when I would see what game I had a ticket in, like, let's say June, I would what do I look at? The pitching matchup. I don't look at who's in the bullpen. I don't look at who's the 6th inning guy. I'm going to watch Verlander versus Sabathia or Cole versus Burns, or like those are the guys I want to see. I don't want to see your second mop-up reliever in the 5th inning because you hit your pitch count or you hit that stuff. I get where Verlander's coming from. Look, he might be the last pitcher that has a shot at 300 wins. And I know wins don't matter anymore, but at some point, you've got to at least be able as a starter to get through more than half the game. I think that's fair. And if you can't, well, then your team is just out of luck that day. I don't want to make a rule that like, oh, you can't go 2 innings. Like, find a way, get through 100 pitches, come out of the game. People are already getting hurt anyway. I don't see really what changes.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think it's kind of an evolution to your point of how pitchers are trained and how they're developed. I think you make a good point there. I do not remember back in the day hearing about the term with, pitchers like with their in their like rookie and sophomore seasons with their arms wearing down once they got to like 120 or 130 innings. That feels like a very recent development. What happened to Garrett Crochet last year in Chicago, I think, is a great example. He came back from the All-Star break. He got to August, and he hit a stretch where he couldn't go 4 innings for a few games there. Now they rested him and then they picked it back up again. But yeah, it's been a strange development in the way pitchers pitch and the way they're developed. It's almost like that people have not they've forsaken endurance and your ability to pitch a good number of innings and throw a good number of pitches for being able to throw 98, 99 every time. And I feel like we're giving up the one component of the game for the other, when the other, I mean, in the end of the day, a lot of people can throw 98, 99. I mean, that's been a thing for a while, but it's just been a weird development for pitching, and weird to see. I think we talked about this before the show. Last year, only 4 pitchers went 200 innings. Only 4 pitchers through 200 innings, where that number there used to be dozens of guys that could go 200, and I can remember some seasons where guys went 250. I think the year the Phillies, and I don't know why the Phillies are stuck in my head, but the year the Phillies won the World Series, Cole Hamels threw like 250 innings that season, like in like about 33 starts. Like, you don't see anybody even sniffing that today. And I see where Verlander's coming from. I don't think the MLB needs to institute a rule on it, but I do think we need that the league needs to rethink the way it trains and develops and prepares its pitchers for the upcoming season, because the problem isn't necessarily that they can't do it. The problem is that the teams are scared to do it because of what could happen to their pitchers if they throw them too much, if they throw them too hard. And especially now that pitchers are getting these ridiculous contracts, $30-40 million a year. Yeah, you want to make sure that your pitcher is, pretty well taken care of, and you don't want him to get Tommy John surgery and have him be out for the next year. So I see where Verlander is coming from, and I think it's more of a core issue with baseball as opposed to just simply, just make them throw 5 innings or 100 pitches a game. I think the league needs to rethink the way they do things on that front. But guys, we've got spring training going. We've got some actual baseball games being played. I know, right? It's crazy. It's the end of February, but we're only a month away from the start of the season. So, we gotta do our spring training check-in. So guys, what have we seen this week? Ricky, let's kick it off with you here. What have you seen this week that's got you excited? Who do you want to highlight? What are you seeing in spring training that you're liking?
Well, I think you look at spring training right now, guys are getting their feet wet. You're going to see pitchers more advanced than the hitters. I love what I saw yesterday out in the Cactus League. The Dodgers were taking on the Reds, and Austin Hayes had a huge game for Cincinnati. He had a pair of home runs in this one. Reds won 8-1. Tyler Glasnow was starting. Brady Singer looked really good. Hayes was 3 for 3, drove in 6. So that's a game that, hey, it's going to get Austin Hayes on the radar if he's trying to make the team with the Reds. When I'm looking at spring training, I'm looking at guys that are trying to make the team, guys that are fighting for that roster spot. Because I'll give you an example with the Mets. Juan Soto hits a home run in spring training the other day, first at bat. That's great. I care about Juan Soto being healthy in April. But on the flip side, Clay Holmes those 3 perfect innings because he's got a new kick changeup pitch. And you're at least encouraged by that. But if Clay Holmes goes out and gives up 4 runs, it's not going to be that big a deal. So it all depends what you look at. You want to look at your top prospects. You want to see what guys can do, at least from the New York side for me. Someone like Spencer Jones, who homered on Saturday, is a guy that I want to see cut down the strikeouts in AA and AAA this year to maybe give himself a shot in September. So that's somebody I probably would look at a little bit more. But really, it's spring training, it's prospects and roster spots for me. That's really what I'm looking at.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I saw the Juan Soto home run too. I was like, yep, that pretty much tracks. Makes sense that he would hit a home run in his first at bat. Alden, what are you seeing? What are you liking? What are you looking for out of your guys?
Yeah, spring training is one of my favorite times of the year, not just because baseball's back, but just because you get to I see it as an opportunity. It's kind of like, it's preseason, but there's more games. So it's an opportunity for the guys that weren't on the roster last year to make a name for themselves. And all the games are a majority of the games are in Arizona too. So it's nice around here. It's a lot easier to catch. And like Ricky said, it's cool when the starters play. I mean, for my team's end, Corbin Carroll hit a home run the other day, and that was nice to see. Corbin Burns pitched his first Diamondback game, struck out the side in 1 inning. And that definitely shows a good sign for our players who were a guaranteed roster spot. But so part of me doesn't like it when starters play just because I don't want them to get hurt right before the season starts. But for the backups, obviously on my end, Jordan Lawler's a guy that I'm really excited for. He had 2 hits the other day, had a homer the game before that against Colorado. So that's the prospect that I'm looking forward to seeing. He was injured last season, did not play a whole lot. So, and I'll go to an NL West rivalry here. A guy who I can see stepping up big this season is Zach Veen for the Colorado Rockies. He hit a pair of home runs earlier. I can't pinpoint the exact game, but he hit a pair of homers against a team earlier in spring training. And, like I brought up before we went live, the Rockies have young guys. And I know we're going to talk about the NL West here pretty soon, so I'll keep it short and sweet here. But yeah, overall spring training, I like seeing the young guys out there. There's a lot of players out there that you don't really see a lot, but that's why the managers throw them out there to give them an opportunity to make the manager think, okay, this guy could potentially be on our roster this season, or maybe within the next season or so, depending on how they're developed. So spring training definitely, it always gets me excited. They're in Arizona too, so it's really good for the young guys to go out there and really see what they're about.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with the young guys, getting them the opportunities to see, get some at bats, get some live practice against some major league pitching and see how they do. By the way, station runner Larry B chiming in with his traditional weekly Angels suck comment. I imagine that we'll probably see this every show all season long. But good evening to you, Larry B. every time.
Hey,
Every
Jorge
time with this
Soler's
guy.
looking good. So
Yeah, there you go.
Soler's looking good for the Angels.
Watch the Angels be randomly good. He's still going to be in here. They're going to be like 82 and 70. He's still going to be in here saying they suck. It's just the way it's going to be. Yeah,
Mike Trout played right field. Didn't see any action in right field though. We haven't seen Mike Trout field the ball there yet. So
yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised, and I'm sure we'll talk about him when we get to the AL West. I'm kind of surprised Trout hasn't gotten the Harper treatment. Kick him down to first base. I almost kind of half thought that might be the next move there. But in any case, in spring training, I don't want to say I don't care. Because I do. I like seeing the young guys get their opportunities. I want to see some of the bats that maybe had some question marks, last year, end of last year, people debating them in the offseason come in and get going. For the vets, for the surefire starters, I just want to see that they're not being bad. I want to see that they're not struggling. I don't want to see Gunnar Henderson go hitless in 15 minor league games. I would like to see at least his bat start to warm up. That's what I look for. And pitching, I feel like pitchers use spring training a lot to kind of play with their pitches a little bit in live at bats. Maybe let me throw my pitch like this. He just knocked it 450. Okay, let me not do that again. And they kind of use this opportunity to kind of play around. Hey, I was experimenting with this in the offseason. Will it work here? Okay, probably not. All right, let me just go with what works then once we get into the season. So if I see, a pitcher get shelled, I don't worry about that too much unless, again, it happens repeatedly. But yeah, just great to see, some of the guys that might not even make the roster right off the bat. Might start in double or triple A, but good to see them get a chance to get some experience against big league pitching. We're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. When we come back, we are going to go to our divisional highlight with the National League West. Do not go away. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, IE Sports Radio family and other sports families. My name is Alden K, and I want to welcome you to the AZ Sports Zone on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you're a fan of the Valley and the Grand Canyon State like me, then I've got the show for you. Tune in every week, where I will update you and give you the latest news for the Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Suns, Arizona Diamondbacks, ASU Sun Devils, U of A Wildcats, GCU Antelope, and of course, the NAU Lumberjacks. Again, if you're a Valley sports fan and like all that is desert sports like me, tune in every week here on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll see you then.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, it is time to talk National League West, a division that, honestly, I mean, I don't know about you guys looking through it. This is going to be I think this might be one of the best divisions in all of baseball this upcoming season. But we are going to kick this off. I think it's only fitting that we have Alden, since this is his division with his Arizona Diamondbacks. We are going to have him kick us off here with those Diamondbacks out there in the desert. Alden, how are we looking this year? What are you thinking about this roster? Who do the Diamondbacks have to be excited for? Let us hear it.
Yeah, so the Diamondbacks coming into this season, they have a lot to prove after what I would say a successful offseason. What I really liked about their offseason is that they didn't just get players that they wanted. They didn't just throw money at the players, like the Dodgers, for example. They actually got players that they needed. They actually got players that fit what Torey Lovullo was looking for his team in 2025 with the addition of Corbin Burns. They extended Perdomo, so he's here for the long haul. They re-signed Randall Grichuk for the outfield, which was very important. And also acquiring Josh Naylor at first base after losing Christian Walker, which was big. But I really do like the Naylor pickup. He's a lot younger. He had a better season last year, and he is on a contract year, though. So will the Diamondbacks pay Naylor at the end of the season? We'll find out. But this Diamondbacks team, I think that they're going to make a lot of noise this season. I think a lot of people, obviously with the Dodgers being, it's their division to lose. Everyone looks at them in this division, and they don't necessarily look at the fact that the Diamondbacks were the last team to knock out this Dodgers team in the playoffs, the last team to knock them out. And they're coming off of a World Series appearance literally a couple years ago, not even 2 years ago. So with the heartbreak season they had last year, I don't want to say heartbreak, but it was disappointing. Dealing with a bunch of injuries, especially on the pitchers, it's definitely going to depend on staying healthy and the pitchers this season too. I mentioned this last episode. The Diamondbacks scored the most runs out of any team last year in the regular season, and they committed the less amount of errors from any team in the MLB last season. But why did they still miss the playoffs? Because they were 26th in team ERA. So pitching is definitely going to determine how good this season is. They have the batters. They have the pitching talent on paper, and that's why they brought in an ace like Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen, who was coming off a disappointing season. He's another guy that is on a contract year. So if Zach Gallen wants to get paid, this Corbin Burns signing kind of sends a message like, hey, you're not our ace, but you still are our ace because you're coming off of a disappointing season. You better bounce back this year. And the Diamondbacks start off their season with a pretty rough schedule. So it's going to be a very big test. They open their season against the Chicago Cubs, and then they take on the Yankees, Nationals, Orioles, Brewers, and then they play Chicago and Atlanta at some point that year too. And then they end the month of April against the Mets. So they are playing a lot of tough teams to start off the season. So it's definitely going to be a very big test for this new Arizona Diamondbacks team. But everyone in Arizona, we're excited for it. Can't wait for Diamondbacks opening day. And of course, Snakes alive as always. I think they're due for a very good season this year.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you were to create a short list of NL teams that are playoff contenders, I think you got to put the Diamondbacks on there. On paper, they're just too good not to be considered a contender there. Ricky, you voluntarily took the San Francisco Giants to be your team to review. Obviously, you and I were a little bit out of our element here, being East Coasters, having to travel across the country. But what are you seeing about the Giants? Did they have enough to stand? I mean, we've talked about the Diamondbacks. Everybody knows the Dodgers, and for a lot to Padres as well. Do they have enough to compete with these teams?
Well, I think the issue with the Giants has always been the offense. Like when you think about the Giants and you think about yesteryear with Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent, you pick even with those World Series teams, you had some offense. There's been not a lot of power to speak of from the Giants in a while. They tried to change that this offseason. I love the addition of Willie Adames. They finally got somebody to take their money because that was always a big deal. Nobody wanted to go to San Francisco. Everyone remembers the whole John Heyman, Arson Judge Giant stuff. Well, Willie Adames is taking the money, and I think he's going to provide some good power out of the top of the lineup. Matt Chapman's back, which I think is a good thing for them. We saw what Helio Ramos did in his surprising breakout year last year, just 25 years old. But really, it's going to come down to, I think, a healthy Jung-Hoo Lee, who got hurt last year, dislocated his shoulder, fielding a ball in the outfield. He's the guy they paid a lot of money coming over from the KBO in December of last year. So I think the lineup is going to be interesting. We know they're going to pitch somewhat. Then you got Logan Webb at the top. You add Justin Verlander. I think it's going to be a big help for giving them innings and also mentoring somebody like Kyle Harrison, who is a guy they value very highly in their system. Jordan Hicks, of course, is the second year of starting. We'll see if Robbie Ray gives him anything. And I think in the bullpen, Ryan Walker is the guy to watch. Good stuff. Had a strong part of last year, especially with Duvall has been a little bit inconsistent. You've got Rogers in the mix. Look, you look at the Giants, Bob Melvin's a good manager. He's going to get this team to be competitive. The question is, in this division, can the Giants actually be over 500? Because when you're playing the Dodgers and you're playing the Diamondbacks and you're playing the Padres, it's going to be tricky. But the Giants hung around a little bit toward the end of last year. I would think they could be competitive, but it's all going to come down to, can they score runs? I think they can pitch enough, but the offense is going to be a question mark.
Actually, it's just tough, and I feel like if you put the Giants in a few other divisions in the league, they could easily be second, third best team without too much trial. But this is just not one of those divisions. I'm not entirely confident in that. This guy right here, well, I was glutton for punishment, so I decided to talk about the Colorado Rockies, since not a lot of, I mean, they don't get nearly the press that any of the other teams in the division do, and you could argue rightfully so, considering they haven't fielded a competitive team in several years. I think the last time they made the playoffs, I think I saw was 2018. So it's been a while, and when you go 61 and 101, and also, like we said, you're in a division with the Diamondbacks and the Padres, two very loud teams, you can get quieted pretty easily. But looking at this roster, it's a young team. They have a lot of their key players, a lot of their good players. The guys they're going to be relying on are young. Brenton Doyle, center fielder, who had a breakout year. He's only 26. First baseman Michael Toglia, who smashed 20 home runs last year. He's only 26. Ezekiel Torvar, their shortstop, he's only 23. And you just kind of look up and down this roster and you see a lot of young, solid contributors. And Alden mentioned in the spring training review, Zach Veen, one of several young outfielders that the team is excited about that could play their way to a roster spot. I mean, Charlie Blackmon, who was on the team for, I think, since Alden was born. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to go back and check. But he finally retired last year, so that's going to open up a regular spot. And nobody outside of Brenton Doyle is really yes, this man needs to be in the outfield every day. Chris Bryant, they have him on the team, but fun fact, I looked this up. Since coming over to the Rockies in 2022, Bryant has played in 159 games. Now, for those of you keeping track at home, one regular season is 162 games. So over 3 seasons, he's played one full season. So I don't know if at this stage they can necessarily count on Chris Bryant in the outfield, maybe a permanent move to DH where he like sporadically does corner outfield first base stuff might be the play there. But I think if you do that move, you get him out of the way. That opens up playing time for perhaps 2 or 3 of these young guys, not just Zach Veen, but also Yanquiel Fernandez is a guy who the team is happy about. Jordan Beck is a guy that a lot of people think is going to get some good playing time here. But I think the player that most Rockies fans would probably be excited about isn't on the roster yet and probably won't start the year on the roster, might not make an appearance until later in the season, but that would be pitcher Chase Dollander, who is the number 25 ranked prospect in all of baseball, according to MLB Pipeline. And this he's got a really strong 4-pitch mix. Last year was his first full professional season in the minor leagues, and he had a 2.59 ERA across 2 different levels. Will probably start the year in AA, but I imagine he'll very quickly get moved to AAA, and he might be their shot at getting an established top-of-the-line pitcher, which they have not had in a long time. And if you look at this pitching staff, they need it. Not a single pitcher who pitched more than 20 innings last year, more than 20, had an ERA below 4.25 for the Colorado Rockies. This team is perpetually struggling with pitching, and it's a natural struggle in that ballpark. Coors Field, Denver, the thinner air of the city, balls fly out of that stadium, which the team does benefit from. They returned 420 home run guys, but other teams benefit from it too. And I think if they can finally get a guy who can at least control the other team's bats a little bit, which I think Dollander could be that guy, and they have a handful of other young pitchers who could kind of fall in behind him as well. So I think there are things to be excited about. There are things to talk about with this team, but at the end of the day, you put them up against the rest of these teams in this division. Are they going to be a playoff contender? No. Are they going to challenge to be maybe in third place? Probably not. Are they going to threaten to be 500? I doubt it. But again, you're talking about a team that was 61 and 101 last year, young talent that can improve and continue to get better. They get some pitchers back healthy. If I think any kind of improvement is a step in the right direction and something that this organization should be happy about. Just move it in the right direction. Don't go backwards, because you don't want to go backwards from 61 and 101. That's just embarrassing. That's Chicago White Sox stuff right there. We're not in that territory, I think, with the Rockies. So there are 2 teams left that we haven't talked about, and for probably obvious reasons. I mean, these are the 2 teams, I think, in the division that probably get overly talked about. I think you could make the argument, especially in the case of the ones that just won the World Series last year, those pesky Dodgers. So, Alden, we'll kick it back to you. What are your thoughts on the Padres and the Dodgers? Like, is anybody going to stop those Dodgers this year? And the Padres, like, they made a lot of moves in the offseason, but they also, like, it feels like every 2 weeks they're trying to trade one of their pitchers. I don't know. I keep seeing those reports. What are your thoughts on these 2 teams?
Yeah, so I'll start off with the Padres, I guess. I don't think this is the biased D-backs fan in me, but I just don't see how the Padres improve this offseason. Now, coming off of a playoff year where they came very close to beating the Dodgers, but I think they went, I believe, a 24 consecutive streak of scoreless innings, which led to the Dodgers winning the series, even when they were down 2-1. So but the Padres, they should have built off of that, and I don't see how they did. They lost Ha-Seong Kim. He went to Tampa Bay. They lost Tanner Scott, who was a very important relief pitcher, and he went to the Dodgers. So another coward living in Ohtani's shadow off the chopping block. And then they also they lost Jurickson Profar too, which a lot of people don't really mention that he had a pretty good year last season, and he's now in Atlanta. So also lost Kyle Higashioka, who had a decent season with the Padres, and they replaced him with Martin Maldonado. So the catching sense of the Padres is something I'm not really too uh, terrified of as a D-backs fan or anything like that. They did get Nick Pivetta though, so they did add a pitcher to it. I will give them that. They did sign some depth in the offseason. Like, Connor Joe, they picked up Jason Hayward as well. So they did make, a decent move here and there, but I just don't think that those moves are really going to wow people to a point where they're going to compete with the Dodgers or even the Diamondbacks at this point. As far as the Dodgers go, I mean, come on. Nobody in the regular season is probably going to get past I mean, the Dodgers have won the NL West, like, I think it was 11 of the last 12 years or something like that. So until proven otherwise, it's going to stay that way. I think I can pretty much guarantee the Dodgers will win the division this year. They've done it for the past decade, what it seems like, and the any team that can really compete with the Dodgers, I think that there have been teams. The Padres came close last year. They finished off the season very hot. It just came down to poor batting, which is what led them to blowing the series against the Dodgers. If the Diamondbacks stay healthy, they can compete with the Dodgers. They've done it before they started spending money, and they competed with them quite a bit in the regular season last year. And they were the last team to knock them out of the playoffs. So there's always that division rival sense where they face them every single year, majority of the time. So they're used to that team. The Mets had a good offseason. They can compete. Like there are teams that can compete with the Dodgers, but obviously looking the team that they had on paper and coming off of a World Series championship, until proven otherwise, the Dodgers will run the National League.
Yeah, fair points. Fair points. Ricky, you're wearing that Tatis shirt there with the San Diego, so we'll kick it to you next. What are your thoughts going on with these two teams? Are they the cream of the crop here? Are we talking about the best in the West?
I think Arizona is slightly ahead of San Diego, but I still think the Padres could be a playoff team. When you're throwing Darvish, Cease, King, Pivetta as your 1 through 4, and there's not many other rotations I think compete with that at the National League. That's why I kind of like the Pivetta signing. Look, I think you gotta understand with the Padres, between all the stuff with the ownership situation, they weren't going to go out and spend. Like, we used to seeing AJ Preller really get creative, and I think Preller could get creative in July. I think he's one of those guys that loves to make moves, and he might make a move out of nowhere. But Jackson Merrill's back, and I think this guy was huge factor last year into what made them good. And yes, they lose Tanner Scott. You still got Robert Suarez. You still have Jason Adam. You still have Jeremiah Estrada, who did pretty well for them last year. And I think people underestimated how good Mike Schilt is as a manager. He did a pretty good job really changing a situation that was very problematic a couple of years ago. I really think that his team believes they could beat the Dodgers. They probably should have, to Alden's point, if they hadn't just gone mysteriously cold. I mean, they dominated the first 3 games in that series. To me, I think it's going to come down to, can they get anything out of left field? And can some of their like veterans like Cronenworth and Bogarts, can they get something out of them? Arias is still there, and this guy keeps leading the league in hitting every year. I mean, we'll be talking about him for the Hall of Fame maybe if he keeps winning batting titles. But I think the Dodgers, the thing for them is health. Because, I mean, I'm looking the other day, Dustin May is back throwing in spring training. And we're like, wait, Dustin May? And like, oh, yeah, he's on the Dodgers too. I mean, they got through with so many injuries last year. I guess it's just health. Like, can Yamamoto get through a full year healthy again? I mean, he dealt with injuries last year. What does Roki Sasaki look like? We're gonna find out. Does this team kind of – I guess the other thing would be, we saw Aaron Boone get a 2-year extension this past week from the Yankees. Where's Dave Roberts' extension? Guy won a World Series. So maybe you have the specter of Dave Roberts looking for a contract looming over him. There's a bunch of things. I mean, again, we're grasping at straws. Dodgers are still the favorite. But I think you look at the West, and I think you could easily see 3 playoff teams out of it, especially, again, somebody's got to win the Central, but it leaves 3 spots lined up. I think 2 of these teams could come out of the West. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think, like we've talked about, I think you probably only get the division winner out of the Central, which leaves 5 playoff spots between the East and the West, and that there's going to be some competition for those 5 spots for sure. For the Padres, to Alden's point, I don't like that they didn't really replace Profar. They went out and they signed Jason Hayward, which is kind of your we have an open spot in the line in the outfield. Who do we get? All right, Jason Hayward, let's bring him in. Kind of feel. So I don't love that that was their solution there. Other than that, I mean, you look at the lineup. The lineup's pretty decent, pretty strong, top to bottom. You still got Machado, Tatis, Xander Bogaerts, Arias that you mentioned. The rotation's looking good. The bullpen's looking good. A lot of things are looking good in San Diego, and they're a pretty well-rounded team kind of in all aspects of the game there. So I definitely think they'll be competitive. For the Dodgers, you brought up a great point, and it's what if I were to have a concern about the Dodgers, it's that the rotation, while it's got some great names and great pitchers in it, some of these guys are getting a little bit older. Some of these guys haven't been healthy recently. Are they going to be able to put together a 5-man rotation that's going to give them that's going to get them through 162 games, or are they going to have to kind of piecemeal a couple of things? Are they going to have to utilize Shohei Ohtani at times in the rotation to give guys some breaks? That could be a possibility. I think his arm is healthy again. I know you don't necessarily want to lose the value of his bat, for games where he has to pitch, but at the same time, if your starters are starting to break down a little bit, why wouldn't you go with the guy who before he had was I don't remember if it was an elbow or shoulder surgery, before he had surgery was a Cy Young candidate in the American League. Maybe you do go that route, but the Dodgers, they're going to be under the weight of their own expectations that they've created for themselves by going out and signing all of these players. And it's not very often necessarily, you gotta say, where the team that everybody looks at as the clear-cut favorite entering the season, I don't know if that team always comes out on top. Because again, they're getting everybody's best game year in and year out, day in and day out, and they're under the weight of their own expectations. Now, playing in LA, you're used to playing under heavy expectations, anyways. But I almost wonder, is it too perfect? Like they've assembled all of this talent. Like, is it too easy? Is it too simple to just say, "Oh, the Dodgers are going to win the division"? Now, in that same vein, I do think they're going to win the division, but you gotta wonder, like, is there something, is there something to say to doing too much and having everybody with their eyes on you as the target? You could say that in baseball. So yeah, real quick, final quick thoughts. And what do you, if you guys were to go 1 through 5 on your prediction right now, just really quick and dirty, what would you put this division at? Let's start with Alden again.
So prediction on who would finish first
Yeah,
or second?
prediction on the finish, one
Okay,
through
so
five.
yeah, I'd say Dodgers are gonna get first again. But yeah, unless even if they do deal with injuries, they have a solid rotation. They have batters that can step up. So I'll put the Dodgers at number one. Like I said, until proven otherwise, it's gonna stay that way. I'll put the Diamondbacks at number two, but health is a big factor for them as well. So the Diamondbacks, they got to stay healthy. The pitchers have to step up. It's really going to be a test because we have a new pitching coach, Brian Kaplan. So it's really going to be an interesting way to see how the Diamondbacks pitching is different or the same with a new pitching coach after firing our previous one. And I'll go ahead and put the Padres at number three. Despite all those losses, I still think that they can be a team that makes some noise, but I don't really see them being the same team they were last year, where they went on this crazy streak and came close to beating the Dodgers. But I'll go ahead and keep them at number three. I'll put the Giants at four. It really just depends on their offense, like Ricky brought up earlier, and they are taking baby steps at improving. They finally got rid of Farhan, which is something that Giants fans have wanted for so long, and now that Buster Posey is running the show, we'll see how the Giants improve year by year. But yes, a healthy Jung-Hoo Lee and uh, their offense really just depends. And then the Rockies, I'll put them at dead last. Um, I think the Rockies will slightly improve. Again, not really saying much, but I think that with the young guys and with, like you brought up earlier, Dolander potentially coming up, maybe not this year, but maybe at the end of the year when the season's already pretty much over. I think they can be competitive with some teams that play spoiler, kind of similar to what they did last year. So I will go Dodgers, D-backs, Padres, Giants, and Rockies.
All right. Ricky, what do you think? What's your 1-5 prediction here?
So obviously Dodgers won. They're the Dodgers, is what it is. I can't wear this Padres shirt and not pick the Padres too, even though I said, but just for the sake of being different, I'm going to pick the Padres too. I think AJ Preller is going to make a move somewhere. I think I trust that eventually the finances clear up and he finds a way to make a move, something that you really haven't seen from the Diamondbacks. They don't really go big game hunting in July, unfortunately. Their moves are like Paul Sewald or something. So at some point, I think San Diego is going to do something drastic to get to 2. Arizona, I think, is 3. They're going to hit. The key thing is for them, I love Burns, but we're getting health, like Alden said, to the thing. Giants are 4, just because I don't trust their offense. Colorado, I hope they're going to do something. The name we haven't brought up is Charlie Condon, the power hitter from Georgia. Maybe he gets his way up through the minor leagues and makes an impact. They're going to hit. I just wish they could pitch. And I think that's really going to be the issue, that developing any kind of pitchers. I know people are going to look at like a Ryan Feltner type and see if he can help when you look at Freeland and Marquez that are still there. Maybe a team tries to get one of those guys in July. I don't know, but Colorado's got a lot to do and spend some money. Can we not have Tyro Estrada be like really the only vet you kind of add? I want the Rockies to actually try here a little bit.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was trying to think of ways to be unique, but I'm going to have to agree with one of you here because the Rockies at 5, that's kind of the easy one. Giants at 4, Dodgers at 1. It's really just a question of who am I going to side with? Am I going to go Diamondbacks, Padres, or Padres, Diamondbacks? And I think I'm going to lean just a little bit towards Alden here, and I'm going to go Diamondbacks 2, Padres 3, just because even though he left us, I still have a soft spot in my heart for Corbin Burns. So I'll go Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres, Giants, and Rockies going 1-5. We're going to take our final break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about some college baseball and softball. Do not go away. You're listening to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back to the Bullpen Bulletin here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are on to our final section of the show, and we are going to check in on some of our college sports, college baseball, and college softball going strong into their seasons here. And Ricky, we're going to start off with you. Who had a good week? Who's impressing you? Who would you like to highlight today?
Well, we're going to take it out to the Northwest with college baseball. We're going to go to we could talk about the SEC and the Big 12, and we're going to go to the Big 10, but we're going to go different in the Big 10. We're going to go Oregon, the Oregon Ducks, and they had a pretty interesting series with Rhode Island over this past week. I know it's like, oh, it's Rhode Island. Oh, it is what it is. But at the same time, they came out and they mashed a ton of runs. They were scoring 15 runs in a game, 19 runs in a game. You got to love the way this Oregon team is hitting. They got a freshman catcher, Berkeley Mabius, who drove in 6 the other day in a 15-2 victory. Oregon is ranked in the top 25. So this is a team that is usually known for some good stuff that has gone out there and done well. And there was a real interesting, the one game that didn't have a lot of offense, because there was a lot of offense in this series, but there was a pitching performance that was basically the Rhode Island pitcher had shut them out for 10 innings in a ball game that Oregon ended up winning 1-0. I think it was in like 11 or 12 innings. That was impressive to me. So you look at Oregon, they were hitting a bunch of grand slams. They had 2 grand slams in the season in the series finale. They ended up taking 3 of the 4 games in the series. We're starting to get in the series now, so we get to the second week of the year. Maybe it's, like I said, Big 10 freshman of the week. So overall, I think you got to look at Oregon. It's a team to keep an eye on. But you also got to give Rhode Island some credit. This is a team that can mash the ball, and they had some good pitching over the weekend, at least held Oregon in check for one of the games on the road at PK Park.
Awesome. Yeah, shout out to those Ducks. I mean, they were crushing it in football for most of the season, and now it looks like they're owning it in baseball pretty well also. Alden, who are we highlighting this week for you?
All right. So for baseball, we're going to stay local for U of A Wildcats. So it's not necessarily about the team. They're, for baseball right now, they are 4-3. They did recently lose to, they recently swept San Diego. So they, after starting 1-3, U of A is now 4-3. So I guess, some improvement. But I wanted to talk about a prospect for U of A, and that is Brendan Summerhill. So if anybody in the MLB, whether it's of our teams in here, or if anybody that's watching, if any of you guys need an outfielder, look at Brendan Summerhill. This guy's coming off of a breakout year in 2024. He hit 320 with 30-plus extra base hits in 58 games for the Wildcats. I know the Wildcats' record wasn't that impressive last year, but still above 500 and due for a very big season in his last year at U of A. So I wanted to bring that up as well. And also, while I'm watching the game right now, ASU and UCLA, keeping tabs on that game right now. Game was 1-1 earlier, but ASU was also 6-1. So while we're staying local, I guess, like to see that. But yeah, for U of A, any team that needs an outfielder, Brendan Summerhill is definitely the guy to look at.
I will say the Orioles do enjoy taking collegiate outfielders in the draft, so that name is probably on their radar, I gotta say. I am actually, you guys were both on the West Coast. I am going to the Southeast this week, and I'm highlighting 2 Florida teams that are on fire to start the season, and that would be Florida State and UF, the 2 rivals. We'll start with Florida State. Jamie Arnold, highly touted pitching prospect, a guy who Alden talked about last week. 2 scoreless pitching performances for him to start the year. FSU as a whole has a 1.29 ERA through 7 games. And oh, by the way, they're 7-0. UF is 8-0, and they are not far behind. I believe they have. I clicked away from the stats. Oh no, I didn't. I still have the stats pulled up. They have a 1.42 team ERA and also a 357 batting average as a team. So they are absolutely killing it. These two teams, two rivals from the state of Florida, going toe to toe. I'm sure they'll play each other a couple times during the year, as they are a pretty well noted rivalry. And yeah, I think, both of these teams are absolutely killing it. Now, and both ranked in the top 10 as well. Important note there. Now, moving over to the softball side, and Ricky, we're going to kick this one off with you again here. Who are you liking on the softball side of things?
So we're going to go back out west. We're going to go basically Alden to talk about Arizona baseball. So I'm going to talk about Arizona softball, who picked up a win. They actually played some really tough opponents this week. They took on number 18 Stanford. They got a victory, ended up losing to Texas. That was number one in the country. So basically, you got Texas and Oklahoma right now fighting for those top 2 spots. It'd be fun to see them in the SEC this year. But I want to keep an eye on Devin Netz. She was named Big 12 Pitcher of the Week. She threw 15 in the third innings this week in 3 games against Texas and Stanford. Gave up just 2 runs, struck out 14, and held Texas and Stanford to hitting just 151. She went in relief twice against Texas. Ended up throwing 5 in the third innings in one of those appearances. So she held her own there. That was a fun tournament out there because you look at Stanford beat Texas. They had a catcher, Clements, 2 home runs, 4 RBI in a game, and Stanford had 3 home runs. So be sure to check out Nets. Arizona plays UCLA on Saturday, an old Pac-12 matchup. Now it's a Big 12, Big 10 matchup. But they'll play San Diego State on Sunday, who is up in the top 25. So sure check out the Wildcats. Maybe get to see Nets pitch a little bit this week.
Awesome. Great call out there, Ricky. Alden, who you got? Who are we looking at on the softball side of things?
Yeah, so I'm going to stick to kind of funny. I'm going to stick to Florida, and I'm going to talk about the Gators a little bit while Mike was on baseball. So I'll take the softball side of it. So the Florida Gators look really good so far at 18-1, and their only loss was against 14th ranked Duke. So I've been keeping tabs on the Florida Gators lately, noticing that their bats have been live and well to start this season. They just dropped 24 runs in their last game, actually, against Iowa State. And they recently played a couple of Arizona teams as well. They beat ASU 9-1, and then they beat GCU 6-4. So since those games, I've been kind of looking at Florida a little bit here regarding their games. And there's been a lot of games that they've had where they scored more than 10 runs. They're currently on a 5-game win streak, and definitely looks like a team that will be a team to beat for softball. So I'll go Florida Gators for that. Looking really good so far.
Yep. UF is definitely playing some great softball, as much as that pains me to say, coming from Florida State. But, UF is playing some good softball. For me, I'm just going to head right along I-10 there through Tallahassee and head across to LSU, who is one of the few remaining undefeated softball programs in the country. They are at 14-0. Only Oklahoma and I believe South Carolina join them, and that's among the top 25 teams. There might be some smaller schools that are undefeated as well, but the only team that is both top 5 in team ERA and team batting average to start the season. So they are playing well-rounded team baseball. Offensively, they are led by Danica Coffey, who's batting .579, which sounds like a number out of a video game if you were playing like a MLB The Show. Your player batting .579. So great start for her. And LSU is looking hot. They're working their way up the rankings. So I think they're going to keep putting their name in the conversation among the best of the best in softball. we're going to wrap it up really quick with some of our final thoughts. We kind of did this segment on the fly last week, but this is our opportunity. We're going to open the floor, and we're just, each one of us is going to talk about something baseball that's on their mind. Could be regional, could be something with the sport, we could be talking about more beards, who knows. So, Alden, let's kick it off with you. What is your final thought this week? What do you have on your mind?
Yeah, just been keeping in tabs with West Coast teams lately for spring training and, of course, college baseball in particular. I'll definitely for spring training, I'll be looking at the division rivals a lot more. The Diamondbacks actually play a couple of them next week. So uh, in Arizona, it's obviously big for spring training out here. Definitely going to try to catch, maybe a game or two, really take a look in person on some of these teams. But spring training, as it keeps on going, I'll definitely keep on tabs with especially pitchers as well, and amongst hitters that are looking for an opportunity to get on a team. But also, as far as college, just been in tabs with pretty much just my local teams. ASU's looked pretty good so far, like I mentioned earlier. And of course, U of A, they're currently on a streak right now. So I like the way how, ASU is looking. U of A, keep tabs on them. Doesn't mean I like them, but I'll stick with that. But other than that, definitely looking forward to the upcoming games. And I also saw, what was it? The World Baseball Classic. I'm pretty sure it was Chinese Taipei who clinched another World Baseball Classic spot. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. But other than that, spring training will keep on going in Arizona. Definitely going to try to catch maybe a couple games here and there. Other than that, that's about all I got.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, definitely go see some games. I do not get the opportunity to go to any spring training games where I'm at. So do go to one for me, if anything. Ricky, what do you got? What is your final thought this week?
So, well, real quick, couple of things. So, college softball, we mentioned some of the games this week. LSU's playing UCLA Thursday, so that might be one where LSU finally loses. Who knows? But we can take a look at that. South Carolina build against UCLA, Miami's against Florida. And there's the Astros Foundation Classics at Oklahoma State, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Arizona. So check those out. Alden kind of stole mine, but I'll add on to it with the World Baseball Classic. Not only Chinese Taipei, who, by the way, Spain almost mercy ruled them in the first game they played, and then ended up beating Spain earlier this morning. So them and Nicaragua, who went 3-0 out in Taiwan. So Nicaragua getting some things done, and they'll add some major leaguers, I'm sure, in the World Baseball Classic. The other qualifiers starts Sunday in Tucson. So maybe Alden should go to those games. We got Brazil, China, Colombia, and Germany. Jose Quintana pulled himself off the Colombia roster because I think he's going to sign somewhere, maybe the Mets. But we'll see. I'm a big believer in the World Baseball Classic. I know people hate on it because Edwin Diaz got hurt the last time around, but to me, it should be around. More major leaguers should participate in it. And we saw the success the NHL had with the Four Nations. Let's move this thing to the All-Star break. And I get teams won't do it because they're going to risk less players to play because teams just not risk of getting hurt. But best on best international is what makes this a great event. You look at what Ohtani striking out Mike Trout in the last WBC, and you saw McDavid, Canada, USA the other day. We want best versus best. Like when the U.S. plays the DR or Venezuela or Cuba, Mexico, like I want to watch that game because those are and you see players with great pride for their country. So let's get more people in the WBC. Let's make it a thing. And heck, let's replace the All-Star game with the World Baseball Classic one of these years. Or send these players to the Olympics in 28. It's in LA. Let's get stars to the Olympics.
Absolutely. One of my favorite baseball moments came from the World Baseball Classic, and I forget what year it was, but it was when Adam Jones robbed Manny Machado of a home run, and back when they were both teammates in Baltimore too. And I was like, that could not have been that's probably for me a second to Ohtani striking out Trout. Just kind of those teammates moments that you end up with in these types of events. But for my final thought, I am going deep into DMV territory. So, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, really small school in the great old state of Maryland. went 0-48 last year in college baseball. Did not win a single game. They were riding a 55-game losing streak into the start of the season. But by golly, they finally ended their losing streak against another Maryland school, interesting, in Towson, beating them 14-7. They were actually down 5-0 at the end of the first inning, but they managed to claw their way back and get the victory to end what must have been an absolutely abysmal time for the program. So my final thought is a shout out to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore for finally ending that losing streak. That is going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody who jumped in the chat room here. Ralph Calise was in there. Marcus Los Great was in there. Brian, Taryn, and Larry B. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Go to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Vital Apparel, don't forget to use code IESR to get 15% off of your order. Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom wax stamps for your special occasion. And of course, follow us on all social media platforms: X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of the above at IE Sports Radio. Go to iesportsradio.com where you can find our merchandise, our show pages, the blog, the fan of the week, the Hall of Fame, all of the above. Check that out. And of course, shout out to our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use promo code ISR to get 10% off of there. And reminder to follow all of us on X at BP Bullpen _ISR for the show page, at the AZTRL for Arizona for Alden, at Rickinator 555 for Ricky. If you're a big fan of New York sports or just sports in general, he's always on there sharing a bunch of different stuff. And same with Alden, they're all over the place on there. And at Let's Wine _IESR for those of you that are miserable enough to be DMV sports fans. Come on in and join me over there. We will be back next week talking more baseball with another divisional highlight and more spring training action, more college baseball action. We'll see if the baseball news is as hot this week as next week as it was this past week. Who knows? Maybe some other team will change some old school rule that they have that we don't even know about. But in the meantime, like I said, follow us on all social media. Do check out all the other great shows here on IE Sports Radio, and be sure to like us, follow us. Go to our supporter page as well. We appreciate all of you. And once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Ricky K, Alden K, and Mike Patt for the Bullpen Bulletin on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.